Welcome to What's Trending with Tire Review, presented by Apex 2022. I'm Maddie Weiner, and on today's podcast, I'm joined by Joe Zaccheo, 26-year Sullivan Tire veteran, who has recently been appointed to serve as the company's president and CEO. Joe, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Maddie. Thanks for having me today.
Well, I'm so excited you're here, and I understand that you've been with Sullivan Tire since '96. So how did you find the industry? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so interesting. My first job out of college was working for O'Connor and Drew, a CPA firm in Quincy, Massachusetts, and I wanted to become a CPA. And so I started out auditing companies, and Sullivan Tire was one of the companies. I would come in and do the end of the year audit work and tax prep. And over doing that for 5 years, I got to know a lot about the company, the family, its values, the management team, and just saw, a great company. And I said, wow, if I ever decide to work for a private company, this is the one I want to work for. And after leaving O'Connor and Drew for a year, I did go to a small company, but I didn't like it. It just wasn't a good fit. And so I kept in touch with one of the partners at O'Connor and Drew, and I said, gee, I'd like to work, working for one company and putting systems in place. I'm just looking for a bigger company. And he said, yeah, hold on. He goes, I think I have someone in mind that would be a great fit. And, after a few interviews, and of course they had known me as well, so it wasn't too long of a period, but I came on board. And like you said, 26 years later, it's just been unbelievable. Company's
awesome.
Really grown and plans to grow further.
Yeah, no, that's great. So tell me what the company was like back then in terms of footprint and processes when you joined, and how it's really changed over the years.
Yeah, so I thought it was a big company back then. It had about 25 or 30 stores, 300
wow.
employees, and about 50 million in sales. And of course, I knew it from a numbers end. Just started to get into the mechanical business, which has really grown over the years. Processes have changed. The computer systems have changed a lot over time. One of my first big projects was to put a state-of-the-art general ledger system, because we were working off of a DOS-based system. And well, you're probably too young to remember, but there was something called Y2K, and it was going to shut every computer down in the country. And our programmer at the time, he said, I can reprogram anything, but I don't want to touch the general ledger system. So, that was one of the things that we had to change and put a new state-of-the-art system. And then since then, we've added new point-of-sale systems and back-end technology and whatnot. So it has changed a lot. Tire, the time to put a set of tires on and balance them correctly has taken time, has changed over the years. But yeah, and it's still changing every day.
Yeah. Oh, that's so true. Yeah. From what we hear from dealers, that's definitely true. So streamlining processes has really been something that's been under your wheelhouse.
Yeah, we know the tire industry, it's tight on margins. So to be
Yeah.
successful, you have to control costs, be as efficient as possible, process transactions, take care of the customer and, in our employees. And that's really been interesting and successful over the years.
Yeah, for sure. Very interesting. So Joe, you've served as CFO and COO and have been through some major growth periods with Sullivan Tire. So recently, from what from the news we've received from Sullivan Tire, acquisitions have seemed to be an area of growth for the company. So what do you all look at when you take on a business? And is that correct? Is that, acquisitions seem to be sort of how the company's been growing recently?
Yeah, it has. Years ago, we would do some ground up construction, but the price of land and construction costs nowadays, and even the time to get a building up and running just takes a very long time. There's an enormous amount of soft costs and permitting times and zoning issues. So we
Right.
have a pretty big wholesale business that a lot of our customers, we become, Uncle Sully. That's our part of our culture. They're mom and pops and companies that maybe don't have as much support in the background. And so we're able to offer help and whatnot and develop relationships. And
Mm-hmm.
so, yeah, you're right. We've grown recently by, acquiring businesses. A lot of times the owner hasn't developed a succession plan. They're like, we look for a fit. That's really the first thing we look for is the
Mm-hmm.
fit. And does the employees like we do, and they get to learn us as well over the years, and they see our drivers and salesmen come in, and they have a great rapport and are respectful and whatnot. And so we look for a fit. We also look for a company that has a good reputation. Nowadays you have to look on all the social media outlets and see what customers are writing about the certain company. And so we look for a company with a good reputation and somebody in our market. We're still a New England based company.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have plans to grow outside of New England, not yet. There's still quite a few towns that we like to become part of the community. And so we look at the communities that the companies operate in, and it could take 5 years. In fact, recently the one that you just read about, CNR Tire, that was a
Mm-hmm.
relationship developed over many years. And when Jim Chu and his family were ready to exit the business, even though he's still with us, and his son and his employees, they're already part of the Sullivan Tire family. So that's really what we look for.
So a good cultural fit for
The
Sullivan
culture
Tire.
is so important.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Sullivan that started the business, he said, treat all employees and customers as you would a member of your own family. And boy, that's really what we go by. And
Yeah.
it's so important nowadays. A lot of the customers and employees, they're just so stressed out with all the things going on in the world and still trying to get through COVID and the pressures of running a household. And we have empathy for that, and that's really part of what we're all about. And so we're able to, we want the companies to survive and
Mm-hmm.
grow, and but we also understand not everyone has the succession planning in place. And so we're a good exit strategy. We hire all the employees, we rent the building, and it is a much quicker turnaround than trying to build from scratch.
Yeah, yeah, and definitely, an alternative succession plan for dealers. Now, in terms of, I guess maybe a challenge in taking over these businesses, have you encountered any challenges or any creative ways in, solving challenges that come, with
There's
an
al- there's
acquisition?
always challenges.
Yeah, I'm
We've done
sure.
this for a very long time.
Yeah,
We have to take into consideration the emotional part. I mean, these are
right.
the owner's babies, and they've had
Mm-hmm.
them for many years, sometime decades. And so there's the emotional part. The other challenges are the systems. A lot of
Exactly.
times companies haven't developed newer modern systems, so we might have to go in and do an inventory, and we're handed handwritten notes and say, here's our asset list and our inventory, here's our receivables. So there's challenges like that. And like I said, most often than not, we hire everybody, but there's always a few from the prior company that, well, it may not be the right fit for us.
Right.
So we have those challenges as well. Timing always comes into play. I mean, we're on their timetable, and so we're dealing with that. It doesn't matter what else we have going on. This is something that would need to get done in a certain time slot. And there's always other extenuating circumstances, whether
Right.
it be taxes or, other family commitments that people have to get to. So there's always challenges, but we've been able to learn from our mistakes. And that's part of our culture as well. We're a learning organization.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we're, we're always looking to get to the next level, and we keep we always do a debrief. What went well? What could we have improved on? And so we've got a great support team here, and this last one went really well. We hired almost 40 people in a couple of weeks, and assimilated the business already up and running.
Wow.
Going well, invoicing customers, collecting money, making deliveries. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's really been a great testament to our teamwork here.
Yeah, that's great. And yeah, the emotional piece of that is huge. And like you said, creating relationships with these businesses, and I would assume forming that trust too is huge on your end.
Trust is so paramount. We hold it like an egg. It's so fragile, And one wrong comment, whether it's true or not, even if it's from our company, we've had to defend ourselves when customers write things about a bad experience, and then we go digging and we find out, well, they weren't even in our store. It was
Oh,
a
geez.
competitor down the street. So
Yeah.
that's always a challenge. But trust and just doing the right thing is really how we go to market. And 67 years of doing that, we have generations of customers, and a lot of it is when sons and daughters start driving and they say, hey,
Hmm.
dad or mom, where do I get my car fixed? Well, Sullivan Tire, they stand behind their work, and very reputable, and they're there for the long haul.
Very cool. Oh, that's awesome. That's great to hear. Great to hear. So you said, Sullivan Tire is really concentrated on staying in New England, but can you give me a sense of, what your vision is for Sullivan Tire's growth and footprint? Any chance of moving out of New England, or really just concentrating on those local communities, like you said?
Yeah, no, good question. So at least for the foreseeable future, in the next 5 years or so, there's still plenty of towns in New England that we have opportunities, and we are in talks. There's a number of deals on the table that, again, we like to control our growth. I mean, it's a lot of the same people that are doing the integration of the new businesses with running the current ones. So we're
Right.
wary, or at least know we don't want to overtax anyone. But on the other hand, we have a truck business as well, and we're into
Mm-hmm.
Connecticut for the truck business and wholesale business, but not for retail yet. So Connecticut is a big market in New England, so we see a lot of growth opportunity into Connecticut, as well as back to C&R Tire. They were in central and western Mass, so we hadn't been out in that area yet. So we have a great opportunity to expand our footprint to western Mass as well. And there's still a lot of
Awesome.
spots in Maine and New Hampshire. We've been there,
Mm-hmm.
a very long time now, and we're embedded in the community. And I just think that, still, to answer your question, for at least the foreseeable future. Not to say that if someone calls us and says, we have a chain here, would you take a look at it? We
Right,
certainly
right.
would. Yeah.
Yeah. Open to new opportunities, but really stick into the neighboring communities. Very, very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Awesome. So, Sullivan Tire obviously is an independent tire dealer, a large one at that. So I'm curious, from your perspective, how do you see, the rapid industry consolidation that's taking place right now, affecting independent tire dealers, and then Sullivan Tire in general? It seems like, the company is actually able to grow its footprint because of that. Is that right? Or how do you see that
Yeah.
impacting the business?
Yeah. So it makes it very difficult for smaller companies to survive. You need a lot of capital nowadays. You need
Right.
a lot of training and development. And smaller companies, aren't able to compete with that. And so you're right. There's a big wave. We see the announcements come almost daily. The bigger are getting bigger, and I guess it's good and bad. It is kind of sad to see small companies. That's what America's built on. Small businesses being part of
Mm-hmm.
the community. So we're trying to, not be overly aggressive, but protect those companies. And like I said, we're Uncle Sully, and we're going to help and give best practice advice as long as we can, and then inevitably we're a good exit strategy. Um, but we're worried, we have concern too, because deep pockets, we're a sweat equity company. We're privately
Mm-hmm.
held,
Mm-hmm.
and we grow through our profits and our sweat equity, and we're opportunistic. But we have a great business model, and I think that really helps, keeps us certainly relevant and growing. I mean, we're not going to stop. We have 77 stores now, and we're going to double in size over a period of time, and grow our wholesale business and our commercial business. And we actually have a lift business that installs and services lifts in dealerships and companies like us. So we're somewhat diversified, and we're
Mm-hmm.
going to continue to grow in all areas.
Yeah, that's
But
that's very interesting.
it's not the greatest, I would say, that the independent dealer is really what's made, it's really made its mark over the years.
Yeah, it seems like though, like you said, diversification has been a good tool for Sullivan Tire to really, expand its business and be that like dominant player in New England as you guys are.
Yep.
Yeah, very interesting. Well, so speaking of, I guess sort of along the diversification lines, what do you feel nowadays are Sullivan Tire's competitive advantages? You have, a lot of competition in the industry from whether it be car dealers to big box retailers to, the other independent down the street. What do you feel are those competitive advantages that, uh,
Yeah. So our employees are our secret sauce. I mean,
ah,
we have an employee base of 1,200, and 400 have been with Sullivan Tire for 10 years or more. And we have employees with 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, even 50 years. So I think our employees and our training and development, it makes us is a competitive advantage. Our trust in the communities, 67 years of being here. I think that's a competitive advantage. Like I mentioned, we stand behind our work, and we started a system called the Net Promoter Score. I think you might have heard about it.
yeah,
It's where we get a one question survey after your transaction, and our recent scores have been consistently 87%. So that's
wow,
really off the charts for our type of industry. And again, that's another major competitive advantage is the way we treat our customers. We have a department that handles all the issues, as they come in. We get a
mm-hmm,
lot high scores, but we get a lot of comments, good and bad, and we
mm-hmm,
follow up on every single one of them. And I think, the customers, I mean, we understand they may be having a bad day and might be just a little miscommunication. They are actually shocked that we're calling them back. And they a lot of times say, "Oh, I was just having a bad day. It wasn't really that bad. It was,
right,
miscommunication or whatnot." But I think that helps with us. We have long-standing relationships with our vendors, and that really helps us as well
mm-hmm,
because we have a lot of loyalty there. It goes back and forth, and we understand it's not easy running any kind of business, whether it be small, medium, or large. But as long as you keep communications up, there's transparency, and there's consistency on what the programs and pricing is going to be. That also helps us. And we learned a lot from COVID. I mean, that was,
oh, I'm sure, yeah.
some tough times for companies trying to survive and get through. But we also learned a lot there, and learned that companies want us to be successful and get through the tough times. And so that, again, I don't think a lot of companies can say that. People want us to be successful.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, very interesting. And you said, correct me if I'm wrong, 1,200 employees and 400 of them have been with the company for over 10 years.
10 years. Yep. Yep. And
Wow.
that's one of our benefits is we have a longevity program. So
Ah,
we
okay.
talk about rewards and recognition, and we have a reward for all the people 10 years or more on an annual basis. And it's really a proud day. We years ago we would have a breakfast. It grew so big, and we had it on a Sunday morning in April, and we'd have over 600 employees and their families or spouses attend a breakfast, and we would, say a couple things about the company, the direction we're heading in, and
Yeah.
and then hand out the rewards. And so people still talk about that today. So that's something that with COVID we lost that a little bit, and
Uh-huh.
now the company's so big to find a place that holds that many people is a little bit of a challenge too. But we're creative. We'll find a way to do something like that again.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, yeah, I wanted
Mhm.
to get your take on uh, just that statistic really stuck out to me. But on employee retention, I mean, you're saying awarding your employees is key. Any other employee retention techniques or incentives or anything like that that you feel has helped Sullivan Tire really keep those valuable employees?
Yeah, so we have a development plan, a leadership development plan that was
Mm-hmm.
started, 15 years ago. That's really helped develop our up and comers, and kind of spotlight some people. That's been
Mm-hmm.
a help. I know you might ask me a little bit more about that, but
Yeah, yeah,
we
for
have
sure.
that. Yeah, and other things that we've done is it's simple, just a phone call thanking people. We get a lot of, like, as I mentioned, comments from the Net Promoter Score. If we see
Right.
something, someone went way above and beyond, we'll call the store and talk to the person and help the customer out. And handwritten notes, we've had many of those over the years. And again, people are shocked that they're getting a response like that, unsolicited. We
Very
also
cool.
have a holiday savings club where you can save money for the holiday season, and the company puts a match in on that. So that's been another great retention program as well.
Very cool. That's very interesting. That's awesome. Great programs. And I did want to ask you about Sullivan Tire's leadership development program. You mentioned it, so just if you can give a brief overview, how did it get started? Where is it today? And you maybe mentioned some of the benefits, the advantages of this program for the company, but can you maybe list a couple more that you've seen throughout your tenure at Sullivan Tire?
Absolutely, yeah. So we have a board of directors, and about 15 years or so ago, they asked, "Well, what are you doing as a company to develop the next generation of leadership?" And Bob Sullivan, he took that to heart, and he said, "Geez, we really got to focus on this." So he created our leadership development program. It was based on the John Maxwell book of Developing the Leader Within You. It started out small with about 15 employees, and they were given mentors. And
Mm-hmm.
it really was an introduction to leadership. And fast forward over the years, we had so much growth in people that really needed to get into a development program that we doubled the size of the class. We got up to 40 people, a North class and a South class. And, it really taught you a lot about, how to handle certain situations and leadership techniques. But the benefit is we put people from all parts of the company together. So there was a lot of cross discussions and a lot of friendships developed, and really a lot of the history of the company came through. So it really felt good about, the company, where it had gone and the vision of it and its future. And so it was a big help from that standpoint. We have over 250 employees now that have gone through the program, and 80% are still employed at Sullivan Tire. Some have retired and
Mm-hmm.
whatnot, but there's been, more than half have been promoted or given more responsibilities.
Wow.
We did have to take a little bit of a hiatus with COVID because we thought about doing it virtual, but it wasn't the type of program you wanted to do virtual.
Mm-hmm.
There's book reports that need to be done on business books. And
Ah,
again, it's
okay.
just the face to face and the camaraderie and the interaction. So we're going to bring it back in the fall. But really, it also helps some people, hey, we all know public speaking's that like everyone's worst fear. And so we help with things there to help people get over that and just get a little bit more comfortable being a leader, because we're all leaders in one way, shape, or form.
Yeah, that's so true. What a great program. That's very interesting. And the stats you mentioned seems like it's been such a helpful tool for Sullivan Tire. So
Extremely helpful. Yeah.
that's great. That's awesome. Very cool. Well, Joe, I have one last question for you. What would you say are, you're a 26-year veteran of the industry of Sullivan Tire. What would you say are the company's biggest challenges today? And how are you addressing them? I know you mentioned some earlier, but any others that you'd like to mention?
Yeah, so we all know it's common knowledge there's a shortage of technicians. So
Yeah.
how do we recruit, train, retain our technicians? And so we've developed a number of training programs there. So we really feel that's a great benefit, where we have almost 130 master technicians and
Wow.
15 world class technicians. So we really promote education, and that's like getting a college degree or an advanced college degree. And again, back to rewards and recognition, where we actually have a master tech bonus that we issue twice a year based on the number of certifications or your designation as a master tech, as well as longevity with the company. And we do
Hmm.
that twice a year. We have a dinner once a year for all the master technicians, where we recognize the new ones coming into getting that designation. That's been very beneficial.
Hmm.
Um, Kind of watching the hours too. I mean, we know people have families that they need to attend to, and it's all hands
Right.
on deck nowadays. So we're actually not open on Sundays. We might be one of the only tire and auto service centers not open on Sunday, but it's for Sunday is family day, and you need a day to recharge the batteries.
That's
So we
awesome.
have that. Another part of a challenge coming is building the bench. We talked about that. The leadership development
Ah,
program has helped with that, but
mm-hmm.
we almost need a second level of that as the company gets bigger, and we need to, we always want to promote from within. So we need to develop a bench to handle more of the growth that we have coming. Inflation, we all know that's a big challenge
Oh
right
yeah.
now.
Mm-hmm.
It hopefully cannot sustain 8% inflation every month, but
Right.
again, our world powers will hopefully figure that one out. Access to information is another
Mm.
concern out there. So we have subscriptions to all the mechanical codes that you can imagine in vehicles. So we feel we're meeting that one. And then, of course, we have some growing pains. We have warehousing that we've outgrown. Every time we get into a new warehouse that's double the size that we had before, we said, okay, we're good for now. And seems like 5 or 10 years later, we said, oh, we need a bigger one now. So
Right.
that's comes with the challenge. And then finally, access to capital and making sure we don't outstrip our growth trajectory.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, we have great relationships with our suppliers, and we have a lot of sweat equity that we feel we can manage through. But we
Yeah.
know every day it's a tie score, and very competitive industry that we're at it every day, and we feel like we do a great job.
Yeah, for sure. Well, you mentioned that access to technology and the codes piece. I would assume right to repair. That goes along those lines. And you have locations in Massachusetts, which is it's been pretty much the battleground for this
It has been.
issue
It
recently.
has been. I mean, all we say is the consumer should have a choice. Where can
Right.
they go to get their cars repaired? So we just hope that continues.
For sure, for sure. Well, I know we're following that too, and we'll we we advocate for that as well for the independent dealer too. So, well, Joe, thank you so much for your time, for being on the podcast, for delving into all these different initiatives Sullivan Tire's working on. Very exciting, and we look forward to following your growth. And really, thanks for your time today. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks very much for having us. Like I said, it's complete team effort, and we're going to continue to do our very best to take care of the customers and our employees.
Awesome. Well, Joe, have a great
Thank
one.
you.
Thank you so much. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thanks.